was his mother's only son, and she was a widow. And with her was a large crowd from the town. And the Lord saw her, he had compassion for her, and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came forward and touched the bier, and the bearer stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, rise." The dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. Fear seized all of them, and they glorified God, saying, "A great prophet has risen among us, and God has looked favorably on his people." This word about him spread throughout Judea and all the surrounding country. Now I invite you to be seated. Last Sunday we started our series, our little summer series here on the prophets Elijah and Elisha. And we saw, good gracious, what a Bible lesson last Sunday. And here was Elijah and all these prophets of what was that God's name again? Baal. Thank you, Baal. And who won that? What happened? You remember?
He started a fire.
Yeah, he started a fire, didn't he? Started a fire. So, and we learned that it is God that turns hearts. It's God that turns hearts. It wasn't about Elijah besting the prophets of Baal, but it was about God turning hearts. This Sunday, we're just going to back up a chapter. We're not going ahead, we're backing up with another wonderful, wonderful story about Elijah. So, from the 17th chapter of 1 Kings, hear now these words. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, "Go now to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and live there. For I have commanded a widow there to feed you." So he set out and went to Zarephath. When he came to the gate of the town, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and said, "Bring me a little water in a vessel, so that I may drink." As she was going to bring it, he called to her and said, "Bring me a morsel of bread in your hand." But she said, "As the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of meal in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I am now gathering a couple of sticks, so that I may go home and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." Elijah said to her, "Do not be afraid, for do as you have said. But first, make me a little cake of it, and bring it to me, and afterwards make something for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of meal will not be empty, and the jug of oil will not fail until the day that the Lord sends rain on the earth." She went and did as Elijah said, so that she as well as he and her household ate for many days. The jar of meal was not empty, neither did the jug of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by Elijah. After this, the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, became ill. His illness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. She then said to Elijah, "What have you against me, O man of God? You have come to me to bring my sin to remembrance and to cause the death of my son." But he said to her, "Give me your son." He took him from her bosom, carried him up into the upper chamber where he and gave him to his mother. Then Elijah said, "See, your son is alive." So the woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in your mouth is true." This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God indeed. Oh, Elijah. Today we want to talk about ministry with. Ministry with. We don't say that much. Ministry with. What does ministry with mean? Well, we might think of it as being together. We're together in ministry. We're together in ministry. We have the backpacks. We have the bingo visitation, shepherd's table, all the things that we do. We like to think that we're in ministry together. Is that reasonable to say? So are we in ministry with each other? Yeah. Who else might we be in ministry with? Who else might we be in ministry with?
Anyone we encounter.
Anyone that we encounter. Anyone that we encounter. How many of you have a new neighbor? Anybody have a new neighbor? Bob.
Just moved in a couple days ago.
Just. This is perfect. Have you met them?
I have met her briefly.
Briefly.
Yes.
Is there also a he?
I haven't seen him.
Oh. Do they have a dog?
No.
What color's their couch?
I do not know.
Okay. Did you find out the dog's name?
If they have a dog, I don't know.
Okay. Anybody else have a new neighbor? Jim, who do you have as a new neighbor?
I don't know their name, but it was about a month ago.
But you'll get to know them, won't you?
Well, I met them.
Okay. Okay. Did you find out what color their couch was? Couch is.
No, but I'm colorblind, so.
Oh, good job. Good job. Well, I would think that Jim Whitmer, being Jim Whitmer, would soon be finding out to play music, maybe. Or sing, or something like that. Neighbors. Neighbors are pretty important. Lynn and I, we don't have any immediate close neighbors where we live, but we like to think that we have a lot of neighbors. This story about Elijah, it's kind of bizarre, isn't it? Doesn't seem like it's something that could ever happen to us. But a ministry with also means that we get new neighbors. So here's some old movies' conception of Elijah coming on the scene, and that's the widow and her son. And sure enough, they're gathering a few sticks. And the text tells us that she's going to break those sticks and she had just enough flour and just enough cooking oil to make a little cake, and then what's going to happen?
They're going to eat it and die.
Is that not the saddest verse that you've read in a while in the Bible? And prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Who says things like that? People that are desperate. People that are desperate. Why are these people so desperate? Why is Elijah even here? And this is where the story really gets interesting. You might recall from last week that when Elijah had his showdown with the prophets of Baal, that the king was there. Anybody remember that king's name?
Ahab.
Ahab, King Ahab. And probably King Ahab's wife was there too, and her name was Jezebel. Jezebel. Now, you get, what about the women? What about the women? Look out now.
All these women know Jezebel.
What would you do if you were the preacher? Thank you, Jim. Now, we talked a little bit last week about this Jezebel. And she was from a city called Sidon. And she was the reason she married Ahab. And Jezebel is the reason that Elijah is having so many problems with the prophets of, what was that God's name again? Baal. Because she brought the worship of Baal to Israel. Now, this is interesting. Jezebel comes from Sidon, and yet in the text, where did God send Elijah?
To Sidon.
To Zarephath, which was just outside of Sidon. It's sort of like this. You're hiding out from somebody. And see, Elijah was hiding out from King Ahab. You know why he was hiding out from King Ahab?
Ahab was upset.
Because he had prophesied a drought. And did it happen? Yes, it happened. And that's why the widow and her son are so desperate. And that's why King Ahab is after Elijah, because he's brought all this drought and trouble to his kingdom. In fact, King Ahab will call Elijah, "You troubler of Israel." You troubler of Israel. So God has called Elijah to go to just outside Sidon, which is where Jezebel is from. So God has called Elijah basically to the enemy. This is pretty serious. This is pretty serious. It may be like that God called you to go to a city controlled by ISIS today. That's about what it's like. How many of you would go into a city controlled by ISIS? Oh, not me. Not me. Rick Dodson, he might. Now that guy might go. But not me. I'm too chicken. Not only that, God says, "Don't worry, Elijah. I have a widow there that's going to feed you." After all, this is a drought. And in biblical days, when there was a drought, it meant what? The crops failed. There's nothing to eat. About this time, Elijah probably scratching his head and he goes, "Wait a minute. You're sending me to the enemy where there's a drought and where they want to kill me, and you're sending me to a widow." What was a widow? What was a widow's status in biblical days?
Way low.
Nothing. Nothing. Unless you could beg a living, you had nothing. This widow and her son can't earn a living begging because
Nobody has anything to give.
nobody has anything to eat. It's a drought and a famine. So here's this poor woman. It says that we may eat it and die. There's a walking dead. comes on the scene. And instead of running away or saying, "Woman, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't even know what I'm going to do." What did Elijah do? What do prophets do? Well, they prophesy. And so Elijah, being a good prophet, went ahead and prophesied and says, "Thus saith the Lord." Every time you read "Thus saith the Lord" in the Old Testament, it means a prophecy's come. "Thus saith the Lord, that while this drought continues, the jar of flour and the jug of oil will not be empty." Is that a miracle?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, no question about it. No question about it. Well, now the widow's fortunes are starting to turn around. And all of a sudden there's plenty of meal and oil to eat. But then, just when it looks like life is turning around, what happens? Her son gets sick and dies. What's her first reaction?
It's Elijah's fault.
It's Elijah's fault. Now, why in the world would you start blaming a man that has just given you food to eat? Why would you blame that man? Because it's not the man she blames so much as God. Now remember now, in Old Testament times, when things went bad for you, it was because you had
Displeased God.
sin, had displeased God. So here is this widow woman, not a hope in the world left. She's getting ready to eat the last time, and then they're just going to starve to death. Here she is, feeling that she can't stand next to this God, man of God. Surely he's going to get me, because surely my sins are so great. Why would his God take pity on me? And her son is dead. That's her proof that God is out to get her. And so she comes up against Elijah, and Elijah says, "What? Give me the child. Give me the child." So he takes him up in the upper room, and what happens? "O Lord God, if you are indeed God, let the life come back into this child." How many times?
3.
What's 3 times mean in the Bible? It's a sense of completeness. It's a sense of he's done all that he can do. He has pled with God all that he knows how to do. That's the significance of the 3. And what happens? The boy revives. It's good. And the mother is ready to receive her son. They're looking at each other, and Elijah's doing what? Thanking the Lord God. Thanking the Lord God. The last verse we read. Here she is back with her son. They have enough to eat. So the woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in your mouth is true." How many of us believe that the word of the Lord is true?
All of us should.
How did this woman come to understand that the word of the Lord is truth? Because she had a relationship with Elijah, and because it was proven to her that Elijah Elijah wasn't out to get her, quite the contrary. Elijah was there to give her life. First, in the meal and the oil, and secondly, by resuscitating her son. This is the classic idea in the Bible of giving life. This is life. Now, the woman got it a little bit wrong about her sin, didn't she? Did God hold her sin against her? No. Now, who was this woman again? Oh, she was the enemy, right? She was the enemy, that's right. And God saved her son and fed her. Who does God care about?
Everybody.
Everybody. Even people you and I might consider as the enemy. How do we know that God cares for everybody? Example in the Scripture. God saved their lives. But He did so through a human being. And that person is Elijah. Remember last year, we did this little series that said that we learned that divine intervention in the way that we think of miracles are rare. Remember that? That's actually rare. But that God mostly chooses to work through other people. So here in the Old Testament is a primary example that has combined not only a divine intervention with the meal, the oil, and the resuscitation of the son, but God used Elijah. So God sent Elijah into danger, into a completely new place, to care for a widow and her son, and she was part of the enemy. He's gone to enemy territory. But in the end, the woman is able to proclaim the truth that Elijah is a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in your mouth is truth. In other words, she now trusts the Lord God. Because her God, if she even worshipped her God, would have been Baal. Baal. But now who does she believe? The Lord God. That's a change of heart and a change of mind. And it has happened through the Spirit of God and having a relationship with somebody that represented God. Could that possibly have any application to us today? Or is that for Old Testament reading only? Anybody have any ideas? I'm fresh out of it.
It still happens.
does it today.
Remember what the title was? Your new neighbor? Who's the new neighbor in the Bible story? Elijah. But standing behind Elijah, the new neighbor is also the Lord God. So when we have somebody new come into our lives, what might we expect? Do you think that God might be with them too? Sure. Ah! What if somebody you don't like? God surely wouldn't be with somebody I didn't like, right?
Wrong.
Wrong?
Wrong.
Wrong? Is that wrong, Rick?
That would be wrong.
That would be wrong. How about if it's somebody that really doesn't like me?
Wrong.
Even then it's wrong? How about if it was somebody that was ready to kill me? Still wrong, George Bell said. Why, Joe? I think they will. I think they got it. So, since you have it, there's old Elijah now. Got that long index finger pointing right at us. If you want to experience God in your life, help someone experience God in their lives. That may sound counterintuitive, but if you want to experience God in your life, help someone experience God in their life. Does that make sense? In the light of this text, it makes perfect sense. So here's our big go-do. What is that scene of again? Getting sticks. Getting ready to go and die. The Walking Dead. So I'm wondering, where's the Zarephaths in Shady Spring? Daniels, Beaver, Beckley, White Oak, Blue J6, Gent, Cool Ridge, Flat Top. Is there a chance that there's somebody in our community that is so desperate that they just about think that the only option left is just to give up?
Yep.
Could there be anybody like that in our community?
Sure, lots of them.
So what does old Elijah teach us? That as followers of the Lord God, specifically as followers of Jesus, what might we do?
Stop ignoring them and reach out to them.
Find somebody who's picking up the sticks of their life and be their holy neighbor. You see, it really doesn't matter whether they have a dog or not, or what color their couch is, or whether they drink from teacups or red Solo cups. What matters is that the people of God are holy neighbors. What do you think a holy neighbor might be? Someone that shows compassion. Someone willing to help somebody out. Someone willing to get to know somebody. And finally, someone willing to share the love of God. That's what, is that, anybody else have a different definition of a holy neighbor? Well, I'm a preacher, so that gets to work for today. So, thanks be to God for old Elijah and widows and a pile of sticks. Powerful message for us today. As we come and take communion today, we'll take up the first of our Beckley Day of Hope offerings. And do you not see how the Day of Hope is a mirror image of this story of Elijah and the widow? Is it not just a mirror image? Because that's one day. That's one day that helps us to be disciples and to look for people that are picking up the last sticks of their lives, who are maybe desperate at the end of their rope without hope. Now, if you came today not prepared, that's okay, because we're all going to take another Day of Hope offering the first Sunday in July. First Sunday.